How now, Bronco?
Yeah, angle looks good. Okay.
What'd you say your ankle does?
My uncle?
Your cankle?
His cankle.
Bert and a cankle.
Sometimes I take this stuff and I put them as bloopers at the end.
Yeah.
One day I'm just going to intro the show like that.
Cankles.
And we're live. What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Passionate DJ Podcast. I'm your host, David Michael. My co-host today is the one and only Tony DeCero.
What's up?
And you brought a special guest with you today.
I did. He's very special.
He is very special.
Yes.
Introduce us to your friend.
This is my best friend, my brother, Brian D. Stout, also known as Brian Savage around here.
Welcome, Brian.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I've been kind of wanting to do this for a long time. I watched the show myself.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we've been talking about doing this for a long time, but it's been hard to align. You live in Florida, and that's a long way from here, so we managed to line it up, and here you are. So.
Yeah, not to bring, be transparent. My mom had a heart attack.
I'm sorry to hear that.
And that's the reason I'm up here, but she's doing great. The good news there is, thank
Awesome.
God, they brought her back. She actually she died at the hospital. And they brought her back, and she's doing great as of tonight. She's actually complaining a little bit about, I didn't make the bagel, toasty enough. But no, I got home for a few days, took care of just plenty of things to help mom and dad, and got a little free time, and I wanted to do this. So thanks.
Well, yeah, I'm very sorry for the circumstances, but
It's
I'm
all good, trust me.
glad we were able to line it up. We've wanted to
Everything's
do this
good.
for a long time. One thing that Tony and I talked about getting you on here is like you're a very well-rounded DJ with a lot of experience, and
Hey.
Check 1 2, check 1 2.
Hey.
have some recording difficulties. But sorry, go ahead,
Yo,
Tony.
turn up the
Sorry.
mic.
So when I had got to the club that night and Brian and I hit it off, like he taught me the basics of mixing, how phrase to phrase, because back then it was all top 40 and R&B, so you had your 32 beats to mix,
Sometimes less than that. Sometimes you only had an 8 count. But you had to be able to bring it in at the right time. Sometimes you didn't even have the 8 count. Sometimes it was a slam, but you had to know when to slam that record at the right time in the right record. And Tony, and back then it wasn't like there was 1,000 records to choose from at the top 40 club. It was easy for me to say, hey, look, play these songs and do it at this time and do it this way, and here's why, and look, here's why you change the tempo to here.
So you kind of brought the art of DJing into where he already had the mechanics down.
Not really.
Not really even then. He did it all within, like, I would say, so let's finish part of the story, how it went. He comes, he hangs out with me at the club the first night. I'm letting him do some mixes. I'm letting him do his thing, and I can just tell right away, like, this natural raw talent is going to be amazing. I mean, this guy's, like, already, to me, better than half the DJs I hear around town, and he literally is, like, playing in a club for his first time on some, turntables and running it, and I'm like, okay, like, this guy's got some talent. So I don't know if it was that night or the next night, didn't I just offer you half of my money and half the job?
Yeah, He said.
I look back, it wasn't the best business decision. I don't know, but
Hey, wait a second.
But I mean, you're also talking 6 nights a week. Like we were at Kamikaze Beach Club 6 nights a week, and which half of the week, there was maybe 50 people in the club where all we'd have to do is throw on a 45-minute mix, go play air hockey, go over and
Ultimix 80s like rewind or something,
and
Shout out DJ Second Nature.
Yeah, right. But
that was really awesome.
it was. He was
on the show.
Second Nature. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But that's kind of how my mixing.
Do you remember how much money it was? I'm thinking back now. Do we even know?
I want to say it was like $100 a night.
Okay.
So it was like $700 a week that we split 350 each or something like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But back then,
I do
that was
that now.
Yeah, and it was for 2 guys to hang out, have a blast,
Don't
DJ.
Don't forget. Free chicken strips.
Yeah, and French fries. And 2 hours worth of air hockey, getting paid for it, just sitting there, it was pinball, whatever. It was good. It was a good time.
Yeah.
But
he learned though how to mix. He learned how to run a crowd. He learned what you should do in a club as far as even I don't want to say even just the club business. It's as a DJ, anyone who's ever been a DJ or worked in a nightclub, if you don't learn the nightclub business as the DJ, you're not going to last very long as the DJ there. Period. If you don't understand the relationship between
Like the whole service industry thing.
the bartenders, the cocktail waitresses, the manager of the club, the people who come to the club, what they're asking for, what you should play compared to what the club owner wants to what is going to keep people in the club. There's so many dynamics that are involved. And if you just go in there thinking, I'm going to play what I play and I'm going to do what I'm going to do. Now, listen, that's awesome if the person hiring you knows that's what you do and he knows that's the crowd that's coming and he wants you to do that, that's one thing. But if it's the average, I want to get my gear and I want to go play somewhere, because that's the way it is today. It used to be you had nightclubs and that's the only way you got as a DJ to play anywhere. I know you still have them here in town, but as you know, most of the guys, it's what they're getting their gear and they're playing at some place where they clear out a few maybe tables.
Yeah, and look, like some people are hiring you as a DJ for your DJ ego, and some of them are hiring you for your DJ service, and the key is knowing which one you are.
Exactly, and very rarely are you going to get hired as the ego one. It just doesn't happen that often.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. I mean, with your friends or your crew.
It's a bunch of us doing it for ourselves mostly.
But there's the big names, yes. But for
Yeah.
most of the average DJ who's wanting to do this and make money and be a DJ, because they kind of go hand in hand, right? It's not just, oh, I just want to make money, or I just want to be a cool DJ. When you hit the sweet spot, which is where you actually can get a little bit of revenue, even though it's not a lot, but enough to keep you DJing, that's when I think you hit the sweet spot. And so if you're trying to get that and you go to a restaurant or you go to a place where they say, hey, come on in and, we need a DJ for Tuesday night, you better learn the dynamics of it all if you want to do it right, I think.
Where did your interest for DJing start? Because did it start with radio?
Yeah, it did start with radio. I was 18 years old in college, and a fraternity brother of mine worked at a radio station, and he brought me to the radio station. I hung out there like a dweeb and tried to learn as much as I could. I learned early that girls like to hang around radio station guys when it was cool. This is when radio was cool, And this is in the early 90s. And basically at that time, I learned enough to get on the radio as a freshman in college. And by the end of my freshman year in college, I was offered a full-time job at that same radio station, oddly enough.
How did you move so quickly? I mean, you were how old?
I was 19.
19.
19 years old. And
you
it was
just
the
hit the
number
ground
one top
running.
40 station in Toledo, 93Q.
Wow.
Again, it happened one night as... listen, I say this to anybody. If you have a friend or you know someone in the business, just be a leech if you can. If they let you leech, try to be friends with them. But if you can, learn as much as you can, absorb as much as you can from them. That's what I did. I had a fraternity brother who was at the radio station, and he was working there, and we were friends. I said, let me come hang out this weekend, Saturday night at 3:00 in the morning when you're on the radio. And I'll go in the production studio and I'll pretend like I'm on the radio and I'll record it and I'll, do things like that to try to, because I think this is cool. I'm studying communications at the University of Toledo, so I'm like, whoa, this is
So
cool.
you had access to all the toys.
I had access to all the lights and the beeps and the boops and it was just so awesome. I mean,
Yeah, it had to be.
It's like the greatest stereo in the world, and you're like, I mean. Of course, just like anyone else of us, you had a parent who loved music and whatever. But I wasn't anyone special. I just got to hang out with all these lights and these slides and these big, reel-to-reel recorders. So I could just hit record on the reel-to-reel and just get on the mic, and I could take the little voice processor, which was brand new back then, where I could make myself sound really, really high or really, really low. Just have fun and make
Instant
cool
radio
things.
voice.
Oh man, just having so much fun. And one night, the friend of mine, I guess I can say it, right? He got crabs. And I was his roommate, too, at this time. Now, check this out. This is funny. So, yeah, I'm just telling you, look, man, it wasn't me. Hey, it wasn't me.
Okay, Shaggy.
So I basically, we're hanging out, and whoever we're hanging out with, some girl he was with, whatever, he got it. And I remember he's literally at the radio station. We're hanging out there, and he's on the radio, and I'm just next to him. And this is like at 11:30, and the show's on at 12, and he's getting ready to go on a little bit. and he goes, Brian, come here. He brings me back, and he shows me a freaking grab, right?
Oh my God.
And I'm like, you know what? And he was like, I can't work tonight. You got to go on the radio.
Oh my God.
So I said, okay, you know, if I can do it. So he calls the program director, who I knew, because I was leeched enough around where he was a younger guy, I'd hung out and met him. And he says, all right, you're going on he goes, you're going on tonight. He goes, put your tape on in my desk in the morning. I want to hear it. I'm like, okay. So I get ready to go on the radio, and I was Brian DeStout at the time. It was my name. And the guy says, you can't be Brian DeStout. Like, that's like the worst radio name ever. I said, okay. And the big arena, or the college hall, was Savage Hall. And he goes, you're Brian Savage.
Okay.
I said,
Very cool.
I said, okay. So I went on the radio. I did the show and left the tape on with the program director. And he said, all right, I'm going to give you weekend overnights. Like, you're like the fill-in guy. I said, wow. You know, which was like mind-boggling, you know, if I think about it now. I mean, it was way over my head. I mean, really, it's way over my head. But if you can push the button, right? Because back then it wasn't automated. Where like nowadays on the radio, like as the DJ, it's all just like computers pretty much. And either you pre-record voice track it, or if you are live, it's like, oh, hold on, you know, slide it up and then talk at the spot, and that's it. Well, you know, back then it was like, you know, you push the songs, you know, in between. That's when you used to have dead air. Things were sloppy over one another because maybe the DJ was just lazy.
That's where this whole DJing idea came from. You know, was you were the guy in charge of doing all that stuff.
It's so awesome. You were doing all that. And so, which is exactly DJing. You were doing all that. You were timing. So, yeah, that's a great point. I never thought about that. I was prepping myself to be a mixing DJ. It's a great point, Dave. I like that. That's really awesome. I never put those together. So that's what I was doing. I was making sure things were tight, and I was really good at keeping things tight. So I think that was really more important to the program directors at the time than it was even what you said. It was like the show had to be right. The commercials had to run right in order. And so you used to have a stack of CDs, or actually there were carts at the time. So you used to put the carts in. So you had like a stack of carts, which you'd get your music log, and you'd go to the big rack, and you'd put your hours worth there. And then, you know, as you'd put them through, they would rotate, and you'd have to hit the sweepers in between. It was like so much fun. Like, it was a blast, and I did enough to keep the job. I stayed in radio, got offered a full-time job there within a year. So at 20 years old, I was full-time in radio. Mm-hmm.
And that was at Akron or Toledo?
Toledo, Ohio.
And then
I laugh now. I think about it. I'm like, I was only 20 years old full-time. Like, maybe I should have been a bigger star. You know what I mean?
Well, so you eventually made it to Dayton?
Made it to Dayton. I was there for a couple of years, and then got to Dayton, Ohio, which is my hometown here. Went to Beaver Creek. So that's when I met Tony. So that's when this story went with Tony. I got there. In the meantime, my mixing difference was because I was on the radio 1819, I was hanging out at the big nightclubs, and I was able to get in the under 21 clubs when I was under 21. And I'd always get in the DJ booth, and then the DJs would be mixing, and I'd be like, oh, that's so cool. And then, like, I'd get there early on purpose, and the DJ would, like, he'd put Snap to Power on, the exact same copy, and he'd be running, and then he'd put my headphones on and be like, see? And he'd be, like, showing me how to mix, you know what I mean? And I was like, this is so cool. And then...
But then you made it onto the radio in Dayton as well.
Yeah, I did. I made it well, that's the whole reason I came back here, was to be on the radio. Like, I was in Toledo, so I said, let me come back.
Oh, you moved here for...
Yeah, I was from Dayton, Ohio, went to Toledo to college. That's where I learned my stuff.
Okay.
Came back home after a couple years.
Gotcha.
And then I'm here, and I heard there was a radio station opening, WROU, U92.
U92.
And I love me some urban music, and I was a definite, you know, I was definitely in the role for that. So I said I want to be on urban radio. And I was the only white guy hired at the radio station in there.
What was that?
The Quiet Fire?
Quiet
Storm. The Quiet Storm.
But Marco Simmons, a legendary DJ, was there. Phil Porsche, Marvelous Marvin Lewis, Ronita Haas, who was the owner. And I just got along with everybody so great. And I was young, and I was a kid, 21 years old or whatever, back at home. And I was working at... this is where I learned how to really mix. I was working at, I think, one of the most legendary nightclubs of all time,
Up the Creek. Yes, sir.
You have to explain that one to me.
He's a couple years older than me.
You were friends with Randy, were you the big guy who was the promoter there?
No,
Okay.
no.
All right.
He's a couple years older than me. So when he was DJing this club, He was 19, 20. I was 17, 18. So I was still like a senior in high school when I turned 18, and it was the only place in town that had an 18 and up night. And in Beaver Creek, it's called the Knights Tavern. You know what I'm talking about? In that shopping center in the corner, Knights Table or something like that.
King's Table.
King's Table.
I think Old Spicer owned that.
The only reason I know that place is because they have a skee ball table in there.
Yep.
Anyways,
yeah, it used to be. It was called the Palace Club, and then they turned it into what's called Up the Creek. And their 18 and up night was
nothing but sweat on the walls.
I mean, it was a line all the way down, just like your typical Pearl Hammerjacks night.
Yeah.
It was an 18 and up night, and my brother. I used to go with my brother and his friends, and
and I was the DJ up there, and I was on the radio on U92. I was on the radio on Power 95, DJ 95, because you moved a lot in radio.
Yeah, I remember Power 95.
Yeah, Jeff Stevens, who's on Mix 107.7, now was my boss. Jeff Varvel was his real name, but Jeff Stevens on the radio.
That radio station has had a run, hasn't it?
He's had a run. I think he's been there for 20 years himself, at least 25. He was when I left in '95. He was there. So yeah, he's had a great run. Very rare. And so I moved around a little bit. Yeah, I was doing radio. I was working at Daddy-O's nightclub. I worked at what was the name of that other club I worked at? Across the street, Arthur's nightclub. That was awesome. That was a great club.
Arthur's, that's when he was working there. It was 21 and up, and I couldn't get in, but he ended up getting me in, and I would stand in the booth with him. This was after the Kamikaze Beach Club, because he brought me on as his partner there, and then got offered that gig at Arthur's, and they thought that I was leaving as well, Kamikaze Beach Club, and I stuck around. That's how I met Drew, because they brought Drew in when he left, and the club that he was at, Arthur's, I would go in, I would hang out with him, and that's when Handyman, that's where we met Handyman.
We met the Handyman.
And this guy that does a lot of stuff at Oxford University, and I had Brian and I out in like 1995 to do this DJ
battle.
Expo. It wasn't a battle, it was a DJ Expo.
Was it an expo?
Yeah.
I was trying to battle.
Yeah, some horror stories from that night. But yeah, that's when you went to Arthur's.
Yeah, Arthur's was a great nightclub in town. It was very classy at the time. It was that mix of a little bit of older crowd and younger crowd.
Pearl.
Okay.
Pearl for the early 90s.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's when I really started to hit my sweet spot with mixing. That's when I really, because before that I had worked at Daddy-O's, and that was Jammers, and that's when I was cutting my teeth. That's when in Up the Creek I was really, I mean, maybe I was a decent mixer, but I look back now, I don't think I was that great. But Arthur's, where it really felt like the vibe in there, that was really that black box, Crystal Waters, Real McCoy. You know what I mean? Like, it sounds funny, but it was like that really dancey, Euro-y, housey, steady beat.
Sure.
Off of a lot of that hip hop that was really popular in R&B. So it was a different energy.
KLF.
KLF was huge. The Hitman. It was a fun time. Madonna, Scatman. It was a good time for that dancey music, and the energy was a little bit different. And for mixing, it was an important time for my mixing career, I feel like, because that's when you started holding mixes. It wasn't just a
the floor started coming into your DJ world then,
absolutely,
right?
Absolutely. That's when Four on the Floor started coming into my DJ world.
The oonts.
And Tony, was with me, I guess, at this time. This is when we were friends. We actually became roommates. We were living together, and we had a pair of turntables in the basement.
Nice.
And that's when I learned that this kid was like gonna be a superstar DJ, right? I was like, he was so much better than me, and I was like I was only 24 years old, and I was on the radio. I had, I had the biggest clubs I was DJing at, and this kid in here was like blowing me away in the basement, and he could scratch like you wouldn't believe. I was like unbelievably the way he could scratch. So it was good times back then in the early 90s, man. That's before I moved to Florida. This is right before I moved to Florida, but this is when, and we kind of went, that's when he went to the techno world.
He still can, by the way.
Oh, I know. Trust me.
Just not while you're looking. You got to put a blindfold on.
All cameras off.
You turn the cameras off.
Nice, sick.
Bring the lights down.
I've been
It's
asking
really
him. I've been saying forever that when he does his sets, that he should be in the middle of a set. He should break it down and scratch, and he would set the room on fire, because in the DJ house world, in the techno world, in the EDM world, in the trance world, whatever you want to call it, there's no one really scratching.
Well, and the thing about it is too, like where I usually see you, like when you're just like freestyle scratching or practicing or whatever, you're often mixing in that like 120s BPM range, which is like because you're doing that Miami bass stuff.
He's doing like a jive 122. You know what I mean? Which it'll speed up the jive 122 a little bit.
And so he's already got that style down. So it works right into the techno stuff anyway.
Or if it was the deep stuff that sometimes, it slows down in the middle. There's nothing wrong with in the middle of a hot set as it comes down to does this thing. It's if you do it right in the right spot, I think it would just add to his legend, because I think people don't know that about him. He's an amazing scratch DJ.
Thank you.
Where I was never as much, because I was always full time in the club, and you don't scratch in the club unless you're really good. Like, there's nothing worse than a DJ who can't scratch good scratch in the club. Now I was that guy, but I because I still tried, but I wasn't like practicing or doing the way I needed to. I never had my setup at home because I was always full time in a club, so I never had a rig at home early on. This guy did, and he was like.
Well, and that's the thing that I think is fascinating about your story is, and I think this is something that's probably missing from a lot of new DJs today, is that you said something about you cut your teeth at this place and this place, and like that's really what happened. Like you weren't a DJ one day, and then one day you were a DJ. So figure that shit out. Like that was your experience. You're thrown under the bus, and so like first of all, like you had a lot of different approaches. You did the club thing, you did the radio thing in a few different places and a few different contexts.
I was doing the mobile thing a little bit on the side too, because when you're in radio or you're on the club, people come up to you, hey, do you? I have a wedding coming up. I have a party coming up. Can you DJ? Yeah. And so I just was like, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that the difference between that and what tends to happen now is that people decide, I want to be a DJ, so I'm going to learn how to become one, and then I'm going to get good at it, right, and then I'm going to become one and get gigs.
I can't tell you
and
how
then
many
you get
kids
the
I've met like
perfectionism thing, whereas you're never good enough, and you just don't go out and do it and get the experience that would give you
I've probably met in my lifetime 100 DJs who were amazing. Amazing, but they make no money. They play free gigs. If they do go out somewhere, they play for a bar tab, or for $50, which is nothing wrong with that. But you have to expand your horizons. You have to say, well, obviously, why am I doing this? Like, I want to be a DJ. Okay, I want to be a DJ. Well, that's so many things. It's okay. You want to be a talking MC voiceover DJ, or do you want to be a mixing DJ? Do you want to be a club DJ? Do you want to be a mobile DJ? Do you want to do Sweet 16 parties? Do you want, you know what I mean? It's like you have to look at like,
is Qbert your hero, or is Richie Houghton your hero, or are you a business person?
Exactly.
What's your approach?
And for me, it was always everything. Like, I love Qbert.
I noticed.
I love Qbert.
Yeah.
I love house music. I was in the rave scene for a while with Tony. My Mixcloud is nothing but deep house, like very deep, jazzy, eclectic house.
Is that what you like to? What do you like to play when you're not working?
So I guess this would go back to a little bit of. I guess we'll go back, if we can go back a little bit to my career.
By all means.
So what happened was always working in the club. I was always playing top 40. I was always top 40. It was working at the 5-star resort that was doing $5 million a year, that I had to play the old school early and then ride the wave as much as I could of being cool at night without getting in trouble.
Right.
But yet I'm friends with a lot of people coming there, and so I'm trying to
don't want to be lame, but you don't want to push it.
So I moved to Florida in 95. And I got hired right away in the radio, got hired right away at a nightclub.
We skipped right over Z93, by the way. You had Z93 in there, too.
In Dayton, Ohio, Z93 for a little while. But
just really only important to the locals, because everybody who's local recognize that.
Yeah, the Z93, but, even then, radio was cool back then, and I did work at Z93, and I met Tony, actually at Z93. I was working there, and we'd crossed paths a couple of times, but he called into the radio station and asked for a song, and he came by the radio station. So I was working at Z93.
It was almost, I don't mean to cut you off, but
Yeah.
it was almost the same path as you were talking, because you were leeching to your roommate in Toledo, and I was in the booth with Johnny, then I was in the booth with him, and then he would invite me to Z93 on Sunday nights when he would do his overnights, and he would have me putting, some things in or hitting a button or a slider. So
Okay.
it was kind of like almost the same scenario.
He's always been that way. The difference with him is he was a quiet guy, and so he would just sit there and observe and kind of and be there, where I was always asking questions. Neither one is wrong as long as you're just in the moment and you're learning what you have to do. And he clearly showed that he didn't need to ask him any questions. He just needed to observe and figure out himself. I'm not as smart as him. I always had to ask him a million questions, and just how does this work? How do you do this? He just faked it till he made it. Pretty much. He was like, yeah, cool, I got this. Let's do this. So I moved to
Yeah, you moved to Florida.
Mid
Sorry.
Florida. No, it's great. So I was at this resort playing, and this was this was in the late '90s, and this was when South Florida, when the house music was going off. I mean, we're talking Stardust and Music Sounds Better with
Oh,
You.
okay. Yep.
That era.
Right in there.
Yeah, and so I was playing all those jams at night. I was using promo only at the time, and they had the best club jams.
Oh man, they did.
And so I was playing the commercialist commercial of I Could Have That mixed with all the regular top 40 and everything I had R&B that I had to do in a night to keep the night going. But it was an amazing run. I was at the same nightclub, Club Zanzibar, for about 11 years, actually running their entertainment director and DJing on Friday and Saturday nights and Thursday nights for like 11 years.
It's a good run.
It's a great run. And during that time period, like I said early on, it was all that electronic house music and break beats were great. And so a lot of the people who were coming to the club were partiers, you know what I mean? And they were people that went to the raves and the techno clubs. And I was like, I want to go hang out, and be in a different music environment that wasn't that top 40 club music. Because I was a great mixing DJ with the club music, but the techno and the house music DJing was like next level.
And there's a different culture that comes along with that, with the rave, and even now with the festival thing. I mean, it's different than the rave scene, but it comes with its own kind of culture.
People. It does culture, because the difference would be in the nightclub spinning business, where it's mainly people drinking alcohol, right? They're dancing to the words, they're not dancing to the beat. And we're in the house music culture, they're dancing to the beat, and they don't want really the words or not. They don't want something being put in their head, an impression. They want to make their own art with the music as they go. They don't want to be fed something. So for me, it was a chance to almost be free DJing, or just really, I don't know, maybe show off that I could mix a little bit. That wasn't that top 40. So I was
becoming the DJ's DJ.
I was. So then the cool DJs were like coming to my club. And they were kind of influencing me, because then I'd hang out with them after the club sometimes at like their house parties, which is the first time I'd been going to any house parties where people had turntables set up at a house and they were playing techno. They'd be like, Brian, you want to play? And I'd be like, give me some records. And I'd freak everybody out, because I could just grab any crate.
Oh shit, he already knows how to do this.
And just roll with their crate, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And doing things that, really honestly, probably doing things that they weren't doing with their own crate, you know what I mean? Because I was mixing two types of records that they never thought they could mix together, because maybe they weren't in key, or maybe they weren't the same genre, or maybe there was some kind of gap that they just played, and this is the way I play my records. So for me, it was just like a chance to be like, I was cool at the party a little bit. I got a chance to play, like, I don't know, there's a stigma being a club top 40 DJ a little bit. Sometimes you get from cool people, like, you're playing that again, or you know what I mean? Sometimes, you get that
the elitism
thing, and I kind of fell for it a little bit. So when I got to play for the techno music, it was like really awesome. And I can remember, this is where I can bring Tony back in and feel like I influenced him, because I did help him learn how to mix and some theories, but he really wasn't doing techno or really house music much. And I made a mixtape of my favorite, like, really housey stuff from like the promo only, like the ones that didn't have lyrics and were off the beaten path that I'd found. And I'd like to say I hit lightning in a bottle. The reality is I probably most of the time nail most of my mixes, just if you've been mixing a long time. But I kind of nailed light. But then again, if you make mixtapes in my year, I nailed it, right? Nailed it.
At that time, I had heard, because I was still in the top 40 clubs, I had thrown, that was 97. That was right before Mike Donovan and I threw a rave. So it was Renaissance, my buddy Tony Smith gave me the Renaissance CD, and then the only other stuff that I was ever exposed to at that time was still the top 40 stuff like Scatman and Black
Hitman.
Box and Two Unlimited, Get Ready for This, and that was
That was
like
techno.
that was techno to the clubbers. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then, Brian had moved to Florida, and with the promo onlys and the stuff that he had, the mix that he did,
And I remember I gave it to him, and he was like, "Yo," you know what I mean? Like, it was like kind of reinforced me, even like, yeah, like this is cool, like we got this, and that's how I got into, like, I guess the house music scene. So you asked me, like, my favorite to play is house music. That's my favorite to play, and I say house music, that is so broad, right? But for me, that means
It's easier to be broad, I've learned.
Oh yeah.
and I would say I probably now are considered a Sunday morning or a lounge house DJ.
Okay.
Because I play, I play in that one. I like to play in that 117 to 125 range. I like to.
I love stuff like that.
And I love the keys. Love the keys, and I love nice swooshes, and I love jazzy sound, and I love that beachy, chill house music sound. So, and one of the reasons for that, I'm gonna be honest, is because I think the few times that I played at maybe all night festivals or something else where I got a chance to come in and play, a lot of times I found my best sets to be like that Sunday morning or that Sunday afternoon, next day, kind of like that come down.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying me coming down, but just that whole vibe of
Right.
the energy is just that lower beat. I just always liked. So that's what my Mixcloud is full of the deep jazzy house sound, but I can still bang it.
I found like I started out playing like maybe 100 and, well, I guess I should be honest. I started out playing trance, but not in any capacity, just fooling
I
around.
think
But when I really got
played
to
trance right at some point, right?
yeah, by the
Didn't they?
time I was playing anywhere, I was playing 128, 130 BPM. At the time, it was like electro house was becoming a thing,
Okay.
so that real early buzzy kind of electro house
Can
and
you give
tech
me
house
some
and stuff.
give me some tracks?
Oh,
or
jeez.
labels.
I can't even remember now. Oh, how about was it Micah Moore did a version of Space?
Okay,
We'll
yep,
send you to
yep,
outer space.
Yep.
So it was like that kind of stuff, that kind of like Beatport Top
Yeah.
10 from 2007.
Vocally, would you say vocals?
It was only because what I was trying to do was get my first gigs, so
Okay,
I felt like
okay.
I had to play something for
Gotcha.
some audience to connect to. I didn't really know what I was doing yet, and so that was I did play a lot of stuff, but really what I wanted to do was play slower versions of trance, which is kind of what I do now, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. So, anyways, over time, I found myself getting slower and slower BPM.
I think you do naturally as you get older. I think it's just something that happens for most people. As you just the more and older doesn't mean age. I think older means the amount of time you've been playing
Right.
records. I think it's natural in the beginning to want to, because you want to be like the guy. You know what I mean? When the club
Yeah.
is at the top of it, and like, look at me, I'm the best DJ. Everyone's got their hands in the air, and I'm playing the hardest track. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's natural.
I was really influenced by so before the Facebook and even the MySpace era, I was really into forums, like online forums.
Okay.
And they kind of I would sign up for some trance ones and some DJ related stuff, and that was kind of where I was first introduced to the idea of kind of being more underground with it and kind of slowing things down, doing less vocals and that sort of stuff. And so when I first heard that in a live context and somebody played like 120 BPM house, I noticed that what I once probably would have thought was boring, I was like, wow, this is keeping me into that groove for so much longer. It's not like wearing me out mentally. I'm like, oh, I can stay here and just shuffle my feet for like 4 hours and be perfectly happy with it. And once that clicked for me, I started bringing my tempo down on my own tracks.
I think too, maybe one of the reasons that I like that tempo is it's a good driving tempo. Like if you're in your car, it's nice to drive to. And I think that a lot of the times that you're listening to your own mix is when you're in the car. And so maybe that goes hand in hand, but it's awesome to drive to over a long distance to that tempo. And like you said, the higher bang, 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 it wears you out. after a period of time. But this is all in context of knowing that this is based on what you like to play, not being a DJ to get paid out in the realm. So because there really is a clear distinction between the two. What you like to play, and are you trying to go out and make money or play in front of an actual crowd on a weekly basis, locally or something. Because you're never going to be able to probably just be a house bedroom DJ and become a superstar DJ where you're just going to travel around the world. You're going to have to get some gigs under your belt where you're playing in front of people who are dancing, and I don't care if it's at a restaurant where you clear out the tables, or if it's at a major nightclub or a festival that a friend throws at his backyard that has 50 people. You got to get that time under your belt.
Or a Sunday night at Shooters.
A Sunday night at Shooters, a Sunday night anywhere. I mean, right? Just anywhere you can go out and play. If you want to make money and play in front of people, you got to get out there and just go do it.
Yeah, the most common question that I've gotten through Passionate DJ, through some means, whether it's email or Twitter or whatever, you could probably guess is how can I become a successful DJ? How can I become a famous DJ, or something along those lines? Which is funny because it's like, if I had the formula for being a famous DJ, I would probably be doing that. I don't know if I'm the person to ask, but I think what people miss is they see the superstars or whoever their whatever their bar is. They see that person and they just assume the overnight success thing, which almost never happens. We've driven that home on this show a million times. And what it actually requires is a relentless, obsessive hustle for most people. And it needs, it needs what you have. Whereas you went in and said, I'm going to become a DJ, and then you got that job that day, and then you figured it out. It requires, like DJ Second Nature. It requires Crystal Grid. It requires that level of, I have to do this and I can't stop doing it. Well, and then hustle.
The number one is you obviously have to understand how it works, right? So we talked about that leeching system where you find someone who does it, you hang out with them, you watch them do it in action. If you want to be a mobile DJ, right? Let's say you say, I want to play for people, I want to get paid. I don't like my job. Period. I don't like where I work, or I don't make enough money where I work. My Saturday nights are free. My Friday nights are free. I love music. If I wasn't going out and spending money, if I'm not DJing, I'd probably go out and spend money at the club and go dance, or I like that environment. Well, it's pretty simple. You just got to go ahead and get yourself some motivation, get yourself some equipment. Right? Or if it's a place that has equipment, whatever, just understand how it works, leech onto someone, find out how it does, and go in and just ask for the job. You got to ask for the job. Put a flyer together that says, this is my name, a picture of you DJing or something, maybe somewhere, some cool flyer, and give it to 15 restaurants, clubs, places, and say, I can play one night a week. Pick a night. What night do you need help at? You're going to find a place. I promise you. You will find someone if you just do it. So, well, at least for me, it seems like anytime I said, I want to go do something, almost immediately someone was like, that's crazy. I was just looking for a DJ.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I think I'm definitely guilty of this, thinking that you have to have a lot of clever marketing and branding and things to get ahead. And I get caught in that loop. But you spend so much time getting your marketing materials right. You could spend that same amount of time talking to 10 people, and you'd probably nail what you're looking for.
You know what I mean? You know the saying, it's not.
I've done that to myself a million times.
It's who you know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you don't know anyone if you don't go talk to them, right? Or you don't go see them, and that's really what it comes down to. Because everyone, if you're in the field of DJing and you want to go DJ somewhere, and a place is looking for a DJ, there are 100 guys as qualified as you around you in town that can do exactly what you do. But have they been in there?
Won't.
Have they been in there? Have they told them I'm a DJ?
Right.
No. Matter of fact, what's going to happen is if you go in there and you say 15 places or whatever, and you say, I want to do it one night, and first of all, you have to be able to do the job. Hanging out, and you've learned enough where you go do it. Go in there, do the job, play the music right, and do it. But what's going to happen is a place down the street that can't find the DJ that they need one is going to say, well, there's a DJ that we know that's down there on that night, and you're going to end up playing it that night, a second night. you know, or you're gonna leave your place because that place down the street says we want you to play for more money. It's gonna happen. It's like you just have to put yourself in the game, or it's never gonna happen. I know, like I said, I said 100. I know 1,000 DJs. I feel like that are amazing. You play at a party, you play something like maybe they're playing. 7 guys are playing, you know, at some barn. You know, it's like $10 to get in, maybe, or you know, whatever. I'll go to that party and I'll see guys where I go, like,
the world needs to know about
like,
this.
Like, this guy's so good, right? You know, he plays the best music, and I maybe see him like 8 years later. He's doing the same exact thing, and he's talking about, you know, man, I just got to get my tape out or my demo out, or, you know, I'm trying to get, you know,
as soon as I get my logo done,
or just or it's always, or just even, you know, even not even that. Some people just give up. Obviously, they just stop playing because it's like I'm not going anywhere. I'm not playing anywhere. I have this cool equipment. I've been to at least 100 guys' house where they've got all this great setup like you, David, and they never play it. They never touch it. They never do anything with it. They never make any money off of it. I'm very happy to see that you've, you know, found a way, you know, to become a DJ and make it professional, because not a lot of guys do that.
But that was my method, though, is adding on to the DJ part of it. You know, I built a completely separate brand to be able to do this and talk about it, and as much as I want, create content about DJing and stuff, because that was my version of hustling my way into doing it. You know, that's my fake it till you make it.
And you did it.
This is my show, and I talk about DJing. Look at me. And then once you have, you know, 150 episodes of that, and if people are resonating with that message, then you've done it. Well, awesome.
And then now let's just say
I could have also just been DJing. You know what I mean? So it's tricky.
It's called, like you said, being in the game, and you have to ask. Secondly.
And you know, in the interest of full disclosure, like I'm very guilty of talking about exactly this more than actually doing it. You know what I mean? Which is the problem that most of us have, I think, is like, oh yeah, what I need to do is da 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 da.
In the meantime,
and then
though,
you just leave it.
You're not wasting time. You're honing your craft. So
yeah, I'm not sitting on my ass.
Important thing.
But, yeah.
That's the most important thing, because if you actually do get this podcast on the next level, and I think it will, I do. It's amazing. Matter of fact, I got a good feeling about it. But you're honing your craft. So forget about the fact that you talk about it all the time. As long as you do it, you need to do it. I'm saying that. Go do it, David.
Man, see, now I'm the interviewee. I'm just going to give you the hosting job, and I feel like I'm learning a lesson now.
Well, you know, I feel like this aspect of being a DJ or an MC or radio or mixing in a club, I think I've done it all, you know, over time.
Yeah, so
that's what I've done.
Out of all those things that you've done, what do you like to do? You've done, I mean, just the bedroom DJ thing, obviously, like we all have. You've done radio DJ in multiple forms. You've done club DJ. You still do the mobile.
I still do the mobile.
thing.
I still do 2 a month, at least a couple of weddings a month.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you like to do? As a DJ, what's your...
That's
if you could just
question.
do only this kind of
That's a great question.
gig.
You know, I think like in life, I like everything that's good, and I want it all. And I think for me, I never wanted to focus in on one thing. Maybe because I didn't think it was obtainable, and all of it together was obtainable. I was able to make $50,000 a year, probably every year for 20 plus years. Trust me, I'm not rich, but I've been able to make a good chunk of money full time, not having to work DJing. There have been spats when you're not DJing. There's times when, you know, your business isn't hot and you have to go pick up a full time, sling it during the week job, and I've done that a few times.
You're here.
Don't like it. I found a way now to be a little bit more efficient with my time as I'm getting older, and using in the DJ world some of the tools that I've obtained over these years, and in sales, which I did some radio sales because I knew radio. So I was in the game of radio. So when I needed a full-time radio or a full-time job, I was like, you know, I could probably do that sales job of radio, because when I'm talking to people, I can tell them about radio.
Yeah.
Pretty easy. So I learned that. So I learned a few little sales trades. And if you want, maybe I could tell a quick story about what I'm doing now and how this relates to sales and DJing.
Okay.
So about a year, well, let me go back. 4 years ago, my best friend in Florida, Gentry, who Tony knows, he had created an online radio station called Muddy Country. And it was one of the first online radio stations out there. And it sounded like a professional radio station because he was in the radio business like me. So he bought like professional radio gear, got like professional radio voices. It wasn't like your typical online radio station, where like some dead air, just sounded bad. Tight as can be automation that he, did himself. And he was actually making just not much, but maybe breaking even. But it was a great idea. And he got some investors. And he came up with an idea of custom business radio where he would, go out and maybe sponsor like businesses and they had their own radio station. But nothing really took off. And lo and behold, playing basketball one day, he's like, well, what do you think of the idea of like, because we were talking about that custom radio thing about like a athlete radio station. And at the time, the Miami Heat were in the finals. And big news down there. Oh, shout out to the Miami Heat. Let's give it up. And this is when LeBron James was over here. And so we said, how about King James Radio? And then we thought about Kobe Bryant, Black Mamba Radio. And so Gentry the next day actually buys the domain names of these names. Like just, it's cheap. I can do it. Let's get it just in case. 2 weeks later, he's at, and we also at the time talked about game plan of how you do it around the athlete and music. Never thinking of what would happen. 2 weeks later or so, he's at his club where he's DJing, which was a country club he's DJing at, doing country music of all places. And Shaquille O'Neal's ex-girlfriend, Hoops, reality TV star, shows up at the club in Fort Myers, Florida, of all places, and is talking to him. And Gentry mentioned something about, I got a radio station I can build for Shaq or something or whatever. And she says, that's funny. He's thinking about buying one or something. And he's like, he ends up hooking him up with them. Now, fast forward a few years, they're business partners in an online radio station called Shaq Fu Radio. And it gets like millions of hits a month. Right?
I'm so glad you told that story. I wasn't sure if we were allowed to talk about that or not.
I'm going to tell the story. It's all good. And it's an amazing radio station. It plays hip hop and it's based around Shaquille, and it'll everything you can imagine is clips of
it's like
him
his Shade
winning.
45 or something.
Right. And you remember he was with Wu-Tang. He's been a DJ his whole life. Since like 18,
Yeah, I think
19.
people don't realize that because a lot of people hate on DJ Diesel.
Yeah, DJ Diesel is what he goes by.
It's like, he's another celebrity DJ. Like, no, he's
Right.
actually been doing this for
Actually
a
been
long ass
DJing
time.
for a long time, and on turntables, and he has a little LL Cool J Rock the Bells routine. He's
Yeah.
and so fast forward, they're business partners on a radio online station. Well, Shaquille is getting offers to do DJ jobs. Now, Gentry, my partner, I taught him how to do a lot of club DJing and so forth, and now he's a great club DJ. And he basically goes with Shaq and sets everything up for him, gets it right, the equipment right. He's basically like his manager on the road.
That's a cool gig.
He's basically his manager on the road for DJ jobs, okay?
Yeah.
Become very good friends. They're also business partners and whatnot. And I myself was using Denon all of a sudden in the last 4 months. I'd bought a Denon 8000 controller, which was a shout out to NAM controller of the year or whatever, It just had the features of the USBs that I liked.
I was going to ask, were you using it standalone?
I was using it with the Serato.
With Serato, okay.
I was using it with Serato. I was using Tractor before that. Shout out to my boy Tony DeSaro. He bought me a Tractor S4 years ago, and that thing carried me forever. I'm telling you, I got let me say it now. That was the best gift maybe I've ever gotten.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
And that S4 rocked it forever. And so the Tractor S4 was great.
I used one for 3 or 4 years
before
I got that S8 over there.
Yeah. Now, it was amazing when I got this Denon 8000. I was like, oh my God, it's so punchy and just all the things about it. I loved its versatility. I loved you could use the standalones. I liked the redundancy factor. I liked that one USB could control both sides.
Yeah.
Very cool. And then the scratching on it was really not bad. And I'm a slip cue guy. I want to slip cue everything. I do not want to push a button, okay? I will not push a button. So
I feel like tables as much as possible.
As much as possible, turntable. So I play the Denon 8000. Now, Gentry's having a problem with Shaquille where when there's times when Shaq needs a song, but he doesn't know where it's at in the machine, and like someone, or like he'll look at Gentry because maybe he's playing as he like to say, Shaq will say, white boy classics. because he'll be like an arena with like full of white people, and I'll look at Gentry like, give me some white boy classics, right? You know what I mean, right? You know, this is early on, by the way. This was early on.
What would be an example?
Like I love rock and roll,
Okay,
or like
gotcha.
Pour some sugar on
pour
me.
some sugar on me, or a Don't Stop Believing. You know what I mean? Like a rock and roll classic for whatever to get everyone hyped, or a Jump Around. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because that can be a white boy classic
Sure.
too. An Eminem, Loser can be a white boy classic. So so he would like basically, but the problem was Gentry would have to come up and like next to Shaq like he was like Paris Hilton's DJ or something. And there was actually a meme that is now around the country that he's like a world famous meme now, or it's something like when you don't know what you're doing, you need help or something.
Oh,
It's
no.
like little Gentry next to Shaq, and it's hysterical. He loves it. He thinks it's hysterical because Shaq's a real DJ. That's not it. But we wanted to eliminate that issue, so I'm like, look, hypothetically, we could, he could run USB sticks, and we could have a cord run long USB to wherever your laptop is, and you could just be like line 3. You know what I mean? And like, he could just flip it up, and it's, what I mean? It's like a little bit less.
It's not really that different than what I used to do an online stream, and I'd run a Spotify into my like auxiliary input just to have that channel in case I needed to go grab something real quick.
Exactly. It's hey, I need this, but in the middle of your thing, it's line 3, and it's up there. So we were just talking about, hey, you could do that with the Denon. So Gentry was like, he said, I said, let me talk to Denon though. I'm like, don't, he's playing on Pioneers right now. We're getting no endorsement from Pioneer. Shaq at this point now is playing like worldwide festivals and doing like playing rhythm music. I mean, like hard bang and stuff next to like Carnage and stuff, and killing it. Like
Interesting.
and Lost Lands. I get that backwards. I was gonna say backwoods, Lost Lands.
You know
Lost
what's funny?
Woods.
This what's funny? I was talking to Brian like 2 weeks before Lost Lands, and Brian's like, he's like, yeah, I might be going to Lost Lands, and was telling me that Shaq was playing. I didn't think anything of it. I thought he was on the bill, but he was the special guest DJ.
No.
And like I'm sitting here watching my story over the weekend, and all these people are freaking out because Shaq's at Lost Lands DJing. I knew about it 2 weeks, but didn't know it was a secret. You know what I mean? And Brian had told me about it, but yeah, it's pretty cool.
And so he's killing it, and he's getting like great press from like Billboard and like major dance magazines now saying like, whoa, like look at this set he's putting together, like and so this this is going on. So I'm like, let's talk to In Music, which is the owners of Denon and Rain and Akaya.
Yep.
And so MPC, which is a great machine, and he says, okay, well, see what you can do. Man, you would think that sounds like a daunting job, right? Like, who am I? I'm not his agent. I'm not, I'm just, I'm Gentry's friend, and he wants me to help him out. I said, okay. So I used my little bit of sales experience, and to me it was like a home run. Like how could they not want him?
See, that's a great point too, because we've said that a number of times on the show, the it's who you know kind of thing, and that's true. But what people think they have to be the guy, they have to know the guy. But sometimes you just need to go you need to know like the tertiary. You need to know like 3 guys down. That's all it takes.
Just
sometimes.
be in the game.
Yeah, just be around it.
Be around the game.
Yeah.
See what happens. Someone's gonna be like, hey, you could be help with that. We'll see what you can do.
Because the guy's going to need a guy at some point.
And as long as you're willing to do it for free,
Or gal, I should say.
as long as you're willing to do it for free, don't sit there and say, oh, what are you going to pay me to do that? This is when it's early on, right? You say, how can I help?
Yeah.
Right? I'm not putting 1,000 hours in this. Let me see if I can help do this. Lo and behold, we put together a fantastic deal for Shaquille O'Neal, and he is now an ambassador to not only Denon but Rain, because he loves the Rain digital turntables. The Rain
the 12s?
the Rain 12s, the Rain 72s mixer, which is amazing.
You've played with the 12s?
I have them.
You have the 12s.
I also have the Denon 5000s.
So that answers the question of whether you like them. I assume you like them if you have them.
They are, matter of fact, not only that, but I had a pair of 1200s which will not be being pulled out. It's just why. Shout out to Bob Green. Thank you for those 1200s that he recently gave me some pair I was going to refurbish. But no need to, because these 1200s, now granted, you're playing on a computer. And I'd even mentioned because I've been lucky enough to sit down with the heads of the company and so forth, and I said, you gotta take the engine software from the Denons, which, in case people know, is an internal software, so you can run USBs and you can use your effects and your pads.
Yeah.
It's called Engine.
Engine.
And it's, it's like a red box or whatever for
Record box.
Record box. Red box. That's a faux
That's
pas.
staying in.
How about that for a faux
Staying
pas?
in.
Hey, well, it's just something like Red Box is soon going to be out of date, right?
What's it called? A Blockbuster
Yeah,
video?
what was that thing? A beta tape. That's so funny. I said that. And basically, it's a program that reads the deal. I said, why don't you have that on those 1200s so I can play those turntables with USB sticks only and internal in that Rain like that? That's great. Now another thing the Rain 72 has, it has the waveforms
on
the
center
screen,
screen.
which is cool. But it's the Serato kind of waveforms. Like it would be cool if it had that internal lines there with the turntables with the USB stick. So actually, they're I think they're going to be looking at that, some things, because now look at that. I'm helping, maybe potentially helping influence some gear of the stuff I've been playing on for my whole life, just because why? I took a chance with something. I got a chance to sit down and have dinner with some people, got to put Shaq on some good equipment. Shaq's now rocking the Denon 5000s at his gigs.
Is he using the normal ones, or did he get the motorized ones?
No, not the motorized ones. That's the newest ones that just came out. I think we're going to get.
Have you seen those yet?
I think they're going to send us a pair, and we're going to test those out. We said we needed to check them out because they're pretty cool. He's a good scratch DJ, so that would be effective for him. If you're not a scratch DJ, there's not much difference.
Just more stuff to break.
There's more stuff there. But if you are a scratch DJ, I had used the V7 in the old school Newmark V7. I was a fan of that, and that was great technology then, so I can't imagine that it's going to be worse. Now, I understand why they did it. The Denon 5000 platters are super heavy. Like, they're heavy. They sound good, though. So here's the deal. If you've got heavy hands and you're strong-handed with it, it sounds really good. Shaq's a big guy, big hands, and so it sounds good. He rocks those things. He can really kill it. Plus, the Denon 5000s are really big. They got those touch screens, and so we put him up on like a second case with him, so it's like it looks like him. It's been a dream marriage with that company so far as in the DJ world. And for a guy who started out playing on the Denon, I think it was the 1000, which was the little strip,
The front loads.
Okay. Yep.
The plus and the minus.
Had the plus and the minus. That was the first real effective plus and minus, because all the other plus and minuses were clicks, click, click, click,
You
clickers.
said for pitch bend?
For pitch bend, the plus minus, to slowing the record down or speeding it up. And most of the gear back then, they were like clicks.
Okay.
But this was like a pressure sensitive kind of thing where you could like ride it in between the beats and really kind of nail the mixes. So that was at my club in Zanzibar, and I was rocking that thing. And
I love that thing. That's where I got nipped to.
Yeah,
Just changes everything.
Best. And so I love that mixer. They came out with a couple of versions after that were really cool. And then they kind of lost their mojo, man. They lost their mojo. They tried to do these like little individual decks, weird little slip tops, and I
remember those.
They were just trying a lot of different things, and they went through a real phase of trying a lot of different things. Now, to their credit, like they had some real effective pricing, you know what I mean, for back then. But they kind of fell out of the game to Pioneer, They fell out of the game. And, as you know, Pioneer kind of became like Technique 1200s.
Yeah.
Industry standard.
And they really still are.
Yeah, I haven't seen another company make waves against Pioneer in recent history as the way Denon has in the past, 2 or 3.
And the 8000, I think, was probably the reason for that. That controller got mad respect across the board for just best quality, best controller of the year. And so, it was it's a great machine. But the Denon 5000s are spectacular. Have you had a chance to play on those?
Tony has a little bit, I think, but I haven't.
I played on who was it? Oliver Heldon. We had to rent them from him, and I hooked Shaq stuff up for Gentry at the Breakaway Festival.
They're just beautiful, big. They track so well, and you know what? The mixer, the 1800 Prime mixer, is got to be the best mixer on the market right now. I don't care what you say. This thing has. It's really cool. It has a filter feature on it, where 4 different filters that you can choose from that are actually one of your turn knobs, not your like LPH, HPF, it's
Yeah.
like below that one. So if you engage that one and use it on your low one, you kind of have that effect right there. So it's really cool if you're like coming out of a mix to hit like a phase out or a out, and then come with this, not hitting a button. It's like the amount,
Yeah.
the sweep, and it's more and less, and they make different sounds in between, and it's not. And they also have like the Pioneer, the regular.
Low high pass.
No, that the button down here you push for your effects, and then you can change from echo to flanger, and then all the
Yeah.
bass is
Yep.
up there. It's the exact same thing there. So they have that, which you can assign to each individual or the master, and also have these individuals there. So you can have this on master and then individual lines for filter on these. It's really cool.
I think Denon started making good choices with their mixers before their players. Like I had
Agreed.
the DN 1600.
I think it was
am
the
I saying
16.
that right?
I think it was the 16.
It was like the poor man's DJM 900.
Yep.
And basically the difference was the effects weren't as good, but I didn't really care about that. But it had sound card built in.
Yep.
It was like half the price,
Yep.
at least, of the 900, and it was tractor certified, which was rare at the time
Right.
for a mixer to have that. So I was trying to get rid of the breakout box and all that. I didn't want to use my tractor scratch box and have all the wires and stuff. I just wanted it all in one, and so I got that, and I thought it was great, and I loved it.
And Denon from there went to they made the they really weren't in the game, I guess you will, to that controller. So that's when that controller came out. I bought it, and that's when I said, let's do this. Now the Rain 12s, we talked about those turntables. Those are in the Rain 72 mixer, super cool. Like it a lot. I think they're like anything else. I'm analyzing it and saying, oh, I would do this and I would do that, and which is fun. But for someone again who learned on Denon, that was my career, and then to be sitting and dealing and negotiating for that equipment, and then now I've been lucky enough because through the company to be able to access to some of the equipment, to play on it, and actually maybe be part of them being cool again, and that was part of my even the pitch to them was, you guys were the top dog, you're not. Let's put a dent, let's put a bite, into these guys, and let's do something about Pioneer and running the monopoly of everything. So it's kind of fun to be in that little race.
You were hashtag change your rider right off the bat. Huh?
Yeah. We did, and he's changed his rider, and it's been a super success so far. He's been playing a lot of gigs, and like I said, just rocking it out. DJ Diesel, man, look out for him. He's gonna be playing everywhere. You're gonna probably see him, I bet it, playing next to Marshmello, playing next to the top people, and like headlining with them. Matter of fact, he says himself, he every time, this is a pretty cool little inside story I'll share, is when he travels with Gentry and they get cabs, he'll ask, like, what DJs have you had here? Tell me about them. They cool? He asks how he were, and then he'll say, like, well, you tell Martin Garrix that Shaq's coming for him. or Diesel's coming for him.
Nice.
And so, I don't be surprised if you see some really cool things, in the future. We're actually hoping to put a show together where Shaq comes out and plays on the Reigns, and then comes out and plays on the MPC, does a little set on the MPC, and then gets back on the Denons, because let's be real, he's not just a DJ, he's an attraction,
Sure. Yeah, he's a whole
he's
avatar.
a hype, and he's a hype man as well. He knows how to hype the crowd, so he can get out in front.
Does he do mic work?
Yeah, he does. Yeah,
I'll get on the mic.
yeah, he loves the mic.
Do you miss radio? You said you've been out of radio for a while,
Well,
correct?
I'm actually back on the radio now.
You are on the radio
I
now.
do a mix show every Friday and Saturday night.
Awesome.
I heard this radio station on the air, and I wasn't in radio for the last 5-7 years, and I just was like, I do mobile gigs, I do this Advocare, I still make some money. I'm not getting rich, but I'm living. And I said, I want to get back on the radio. Then Urban Station came on the radio. Sorry about my buzzing phone. And I was like, this is a really awesome, like, throwback 90s R&B radio station, like where I started. I'm going to call them, and I'm going to try to get on the radio. And I called, like, no one answered. I called. I pretended like I was like I was a business trying, like, hey, we want to buy some advertising from you guys, No callbacks, no nothing.
Savage LLC.
Nothing. And then so I looked up their license online, where they were out of, And I said, they're in Office Central. So I just drove out there. I walked into a building, and it was just like some older lady. She was just sitting there, like, and it was like a nursing school or something. I walk in there, and she's like, yes. I'm like, yeah, I'm just here about the radio station. She's like, well, what do you want to know? I'm like, you guys need my help. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, you guys need my help. You guys, it just sounds, like you need some help, She's just looking at me like, what? And I go, well, here's my background. This is what I do. I want to help you guys. And I left, and I got a call back, and I got an interview, and I got hired at the radio station. So,
wow. That's amazing.
So I started helping them some things, and I was on the air, but I think they felt like, they were like, well, we have a mix show on the weekend, and we'd rather put you on the air on the mix show. You're a little more hype. You're a little bit more, up. And I'm like, okay. So they had a pre-programmed mix, like a hot mix, like it's a pre-done cool jams or something. And, it's all right. It's all right. But the PD was like, I really don't like, I was emceeing it. So I just basically would listen to the mixes. You'd have your time when you could talk, and you'd just be like, hey, what's up? It's Saturday night,
Yeah.
Pre-record it, send it to the station. I just do it during the day. Super easy, no big deal. And so I was on Friday and Saturday nights doing that. And I just made a mention, hey guys, this isn't the best. It's not the best. We could probably do a little better. It's a little old, I'd like to hear more 90s and 2000s and stuff. And they're like, well, we're going to look for a DJ. Would you help us find a DJ? So I was like taking demos for DJs because I was just going to MC. And then I was just getting frustrated with everything I was hearing. And the assistant boss goes, Brian, why don't you just do a mix? I'm like, all right. And so I put a mix together, and she didn't tell the owners who it was when they gave it to me. I was working for them. And they were like, oh, we love it. Let's do this. And they're like, what's Brian? And they were
Awesome.
like, oh. And so I was like, all right. So now I just do the Friday and Saturday nights. Now I MC the Friday nights, and I have a guest DJ. His name's DJ Fresh, and I don't even know where he's at, but he sends his stuff in, and I just MC over his stuff. And then Saturday nights I put a 4-hour mix together, which by the way, does take about 6 hours. It's not it's not as simple as everyone thinks. You gotta record everything. You gotta stop mix after 25 minutes. You got to start your next one, and hopefully you don't have any mistakes. You know what I mean? In that 25 minutes.
Do you script it, or do you have to do you ad lib it, or how's that work?
I freestyle everything, man.
Yeah.
I've been that way my whole life. I have never put together a set, and you know what?
Could you
That's
give us
where I
like
got
an
it from.
I don't know
example
if-
segment,
I don't
or
know
is
if
that
I've
putting you
ever-
on the spot?
Feeling on the spot. So I'd be like, 107.5 Jams. It's Saturday night. It's your boy B Dog. We just jamming tonight. You got something you want to hear? 963-8383 for the 239. We'll get you in tonight. Of course, got the jams all night long. Got some R. Kelly for you right now. It's the Saturday Night Hot Mix. 107.5 Jams.
All
Something like
right.
that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know.
Okay.
It's kind of
Awesome.
It may be a little bit better, when I'm listening to the music and I'm flowing. But
Oh yeah, sure.
it's
That's
just
it's like,
fun.
I hear you're funny. Tell me a joke. Like it's,
Yeah.
yeah.
And for the mix shows are different. You're not being like, Z93, it's 45 minutes past the hour, 15 minutes before the top of the hour, 75 degrees, your chance to win coming up. It's not like, you're not really doing that.
Did you
corny
have
thing.
different radio personalities or voices
For sure,
for
probably.
the formats?
Probably I did. I probably do it in life too. Like if I hang around people who are Latin, I probably start sounding Latin. If I'm around black people, I start probably sounding black. If I'm around Italians, I probably start sounding Italian. I don't, not purposely, but I bet I would. I like to imitate voices. I don't know,
You'd be that guy that moves to Australia for a year and comes back with an accent.
No, I wouldn't do it though. Probably to fake it. I don't know. Who knows? No, I don't know. It just.
No, I mean it just
I
infuses.
think I was always a little bit in the beginning. I was just terrible and pukey. Z93. Hey, coming up. You're Z93. Just like corny. And like everything. And then I think working at Urban Radio helped. I had a program director who said, Brian, and I go, yeah, he goes, he turned the lights off on me. Now do your break, chill out. I was like, all right. So that's when I learned to be a little bit more like, U92, trying to be a little bit more smooth. So I probably did a little more of that voice when I was at an urban station. I worked at a country station for a while, and I think I probably was a little bit more like, hey, y'all coming up, you just try to assimilate a little bit.
Know your audience.
You want to keep your job,
Yeah.
right? So I think may have been the case. I think now I'm just me. When I'm totally in my zone when I go on. I'm just having fun. I just open the mic, and I get silly. I rhyme a little bit.
That's the job you want,
You
right?
know?
Like where you're completely comfortable, and it's like because that's when it stops feeling like, I don't want to speak for you, but that's when it stops
100%.
feeling like work, right? Is
Yeah.
when you're just like, I'm hanging out and I'm talking into this microphone, and this is what we would be talking about anyway. It's kind of like this show, you know. It's
Really, podcasting probably made that happen because
You can talk freely.
it made it happen for a lot of
made
people.
it happen, and really even the radio host, everyone kind of had to be a little bit more of a regular talker and relatable when they speak. But again, know your audience. If you're in a club, just get your hands in the air. You gotta be the right pitch, the right tone. You don't want to be like, everybody put your hands in the air. You just,
We're gonna bring this up to a 10 right now.
yeah. You guys ready to get lit? Just kidding. So because I like to play all those roles, man. I like to be in the club, and just the ladies, let me, and having fun.
Some of that's just energy level, though, right? Like
Just energy.
sitting in a closet versus sitting in a room full of 200 people or whatever.
It's knowing when to do it. As it's kind of like you do it a little bit in the drop. You know what I mean? Or right before the the post when they start singing. You don't want to be like right, put your hands in the air. Make some noise, and then boom, it's hidden before they get a chance to go. You want to make it so they go
or dead
boom,
silence.
you just want it to be able to in, or you don't want to be touring the screens. Oh yeah, dun, 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 dun. It's like it doesn't sound good. So know when to hit it, but just have fun with it. On the radio now, like on the weekend mix show, it's just kind of being a little bit smooth, cool, little rhyming and timing and
Mixed with clown.
freestyling, little clowning, exactly, and just having fun. Pretty cool.
And you have hustled your way into being a well-rounded DJ, and I think our audience is really going to appreciate your story, man. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
I'm so glad I came.
Tony, thanks for bringing.
Absolutely.
I feel a little self-serving, like talking about myself all the time, but I guess
That's what I'm here for, buddy.
Here for it, yeah.
Thank you guys so much. Keep on spinning. This has been the Passionate DJ Podcast.